Slay the Spire is a roguelike deck-building video game developed by MegaCrit and published by Humble Bundle in 2019 for PC, Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation. A roguelike deck builder must be one of the most polarizing descriptions that could be applied to a video game, and it's only due to my dedication to playing different types of games and an enthusiastic endorsement from a friend whose opinion I value that I installed Slay the Spire with an open mind and gave it a shot. I've had minimal experience with roguelikes and even less success. I've put a couple of solo hours into Risk of Rain 2, and if I'd recorded that footage, you would wonder if I was playing blindfolded or if it was merely the first video game I ever played. I had marginally more success with Hades, but that mostly just means I actually got skilled enough to understand what that game wanted from me. I've had minimal experience with card games as well. I've played a South Park card game on my phone that held my interest for a couple of days, a super chill game called Signs of the Sojourner that had a superficial card system, and Hand of Fate 2, which brings us back to the blindfold versus first video game ever played scenario. All of this is to say that this review is not being brought to you by the type of gamer who is a junkie for this kind of game. I've never played Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering.
What I'm trying to say is, fine. I don't even have cards in my hand.
I put over 150 hours into beating The Witcher 3, and I'd guess maybe about 10 minutes of my time was spent playing Gwent. Fortunately, I'm not here to rate the quality of this roguelike deck builder in comparison to any of its peers. The fact that it's become one of my favorite and most played games of all time, and the idea that most players won't give it a shot based on the genre labels, has led to one important question. How chill is Slay the Spire? The standard chill rating system breaks down the qualities that pertain to a chill video game experience. All categories will be scored 0 through 5, and the end result will be multiplied by 2 to award a score out of 100 total points. My experience with Slay the Spire can best be described as a before and after, with the dividing line between being the moment that I got good. It's probably not breaking news that the game is far more enjoyable when we're good at it, but Slay the Spire makes itself accessible up until that point. While most difficult games tend to punish players and warn them up front what they're in for, Slay the Spire leads with its most simple mechanics to learn. Firstly, the controls are basic and offer no reflex-based mastery. Learning the button layouts and becoming comfortable with them should be two events separated by a few minutes. At the beginning, our only choice to start a run is a standard game mode and one available character. This only character we can choose as new players is the Ironclad, which I'd agree is the most forgiving character to learn the game with. The Ironclad's default relic ability is to heal 6 points after every fight. It starts each run with the most HP, and its beginning cards mostly consist of straightforward attacks. In many ways, Slay the Spire waits until the full scope of its systems and strategies are revealed. By the time I unlocked the 4th available character, I had unlocked multiple new cards and abilities for the previous 3 characters, introducing dozens of potential combinations of builds. In regard to a chill rating, I must take this extreme depth into account and dock half a point for how technical the game's nuances become. Combined with losing another half point because the so-called random nature of the loot and enemies is undeniably frustrating at times, Slay the Spire receives a chill rating of 4 for its mechanics. Roguelikes by definition are going to kill us a lot. Despite my belief that Slay the Spire somewhat transcends its genre, I would never suggest that it's mislabeled. A victory in Slay the Spire is achieved, questionably, when you slay the boss at the end of the 3rd level of the Spire. At the time of writing this script, I've attempted 378 runs and achieved 22 victories, equaling a success rate of just under 6%. The game is designed to be difficult to win, with the ability to heal being limited to a choice between HP or an upgrade, a random item, or beating one of the first 2 bosses. Taking into account the permadeath nature of losing that run's deck, the only reason Slay the Spire narrowly misses a 0 for its death system is that we do unlock new cards that can be potentially found and added to our decks in future runs. This token amount of progression earns Slay the Spire a 0.5 for its dying mechanic. In addition to unlocking new cards and relics for future runs, Slay the Spire also conveniently allows us the convenience of saving our game mid-run. The limit to this feature is the next time we play we must continue that run or lose its progress, but it's better than nothing and certainly unexpected in my opinion for the game to even allow it. Slay the Spire receives a 3.5 for its saving system. Like a few other games I've reviewed on my channel so far, I'm inclined to award a higher art direction score to a game that involves violent content if that game successfully presents it in a chill way. The content of Slay the Spire is exclusively comprised of fights to the death, but the cartoony nature of the character models and attack animations never even approach anything dark or heavy. The nature of it being a card game means the vast majority of its appeal lies in the strategies and abilities and numbers, so one could argue that it really doesn't need to look as good as it does, but Slay the Spire certainly benefits from its aesthetically pleasing visuals. The music plays throughout all the battles, and for the most part is made up of chill background themes that manage to not be annoying or even noticeable even after dozens of hours. The boss fights bring some slightly more intense music, but we're still a long way from the emo metal of Devil May Cry or Sonic Frontiers here. The chill presentation of Slay the Spire goes a long way towards downplaying the violence and even the difficulty inherent in its genre, and achieves the full chill rating of 5 each for its art direction and music. Despite the large amount of time I've spent playing it, I could not tell you what Slay the Spire is about. Literally no idea. I'm not sure what the Spire represents, it's not clear to me why we need to climb it and slay it, and so far I don't think it's been explained if I'm actually doing damage to a finite health bar when I attack its heart at the end of a successful run, and why success only leads to us having to do it all over again. However, these things remaining unexplained has not negatively affected the chill factor. Because it seems to be left up to my interpretation, I assume we have good intentions as players and that we're just in our decision to invade the Spire and slaughter everyone inside. The story content loses half a point for that slaughter for a chill rating of 4.5. The way Slay the Spire approaches quests is direct and appreciated by a player like me. Essentially, I know what to expect from every run, despite the random nature of most of the elements. There's something comforting in sitting down to play a game with a regimented gameplay loop and structure. The randomness of the level layouts and available cards becomes a source of welcome variety, rather than an unsurmountable nuisance. Choosing which direction to ascend is part of the strategy, but at the end of the day, we know we're looking for fireplaces, merchants, elites, etc. I'm awarding a chill rating of 4 for its quest design, because I admit that the lack of variety could potentially be viewed as not chill depending on subjectivity, and just because I get a sense of comfort from the structure, other players may become frustrated or bored by it. If the numbers of my rating system required me to weight any categories to achieve a round number, I would likely elect pacing to be the element of a game that affects a chill experience more than most. It's one of the most subjective, surely. Some people prefer the Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley style of endless open-ended simulation play, and something like Slay the Spire is kind of the opposite of that. A successful run is probably going to take around 30-ish minutes to complete, and since I've been unsuccessful 94% of the time, it's fair to say most of my runs take less time than that. What Slay the Spire does remarkably well is how it leaves me wanting more. I find that I'm just as likely to start up a new run after a loss as I am after a win. I could play one failed run that took 12 minutes, or I could play them back to back for hours. Combined with the aforementioned ability to save our games mid-run, Slay the Spire earns the full chill rating of 5 for pacing. The sheer freedom we have of playing for a few minutes or for hours on end has more in common with the pacing of a simulation game than might be apparent just from the surface. Slay the Spire is available on pretty much any platform that can run a video game, but my experience has been limited to the PlayStations 4 and 5. The game runs so reliably well that I wish I could award a higher score than the maximum score games typically would receive for a lack of technical issues. At the time of writing the script, I've played Slay the Spire for just over 120 hours, spread out evenly across a consistent basis, and I've never had the game crash or behave oddly at all. While I do question if it's really random that every time I've gotten an unstoppable Shiv build cooking, my final boss is the one that ends my turn after 12 cards played, conspiracies aside, the game has worked flawlessly for my entire experience with it and achieves the full chill rating of 5 each for crashes and glitches. There were 2 reasons holding me back from making a Slay the Spire video at first. One, I was afraid that I didn't have much to say about the game, and I don't. While there probably is an endless conversation to be had about the best build we've ever built, or the craziest boss win we've ever pulled off, the game itself is refreshingly simple. Slay the Spire knows what it wants to be, a roguelike deck builder, and it has succeeded so well that it's arguably the most famous and accessible of its peers. The second reason I was hesitant about the video is that I'm aware the actual gameplay of Slay the Spire might not be the most thrilling thing to watch without context. After compiling the individual scores, Slay the Spire receives a chill rating of 83 out of 100. On a personal note, Slay the Spire's turn-based nature has allowed me to appreciate some amazing games in that genre that I might have previously thought inaccessible. Slay the Spire has been one of the most rewarding examples of why I'm willing to try any type of video game, regardless of how bad I might have been at Risk of Rain 2. If you enjoyed this review, please consider pressing the like button and subscribing to my channel for more chill video game content.